So today is the day that we actually build the RTX 2060 gaming machine. So it's kind of extreme and kind of not. So I'm going to go through the parts like real quick with you and tell you the prices. So we've got this motherboard here, which is the MPG Z390. It's obviously Intel based, not AMD. Gaming Pro Carbon AC. So the AC is basically stands for you get Bluetooth and the wireless internet as well at the end, so that's pretty cool. And that's going for £188.50. And the good thing about it being at £188.50, because it was actually reduced from £200. So this is why I was saying yesterday, it's a good time to obviously build computers in January. Obviously, not many people have got money in January because of Christmas, but at least that you'll be able to start to get your computer gaming systems ready if you've got money that came through pocket money or your business or whatever. Anyway, the reason that we went with this motherboard is it's really quite nice looking. It's got the RGBs on there. It's not too in your face and stuff like that. And obviously you can connect it to a case that hasn't got LEDs or RGB connector. It's got its own RGBs through software, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, it works well with the Intel 9900K. Talking about the Intel 9900K, it is $524.99 at the moment. Obviously reduced from, how much was it? $524.99. So reduced from about £75. Still clearly very expensive, but if you want the best of the best for gaming, then this is what we opt with. We went with the 9900K because it's going to be a nice powerful CPU, top end, and it's going to be no bottlenecking from the CPU bit, and obviously it's future proof at the moment, and it's just a clear winner of the CPU. And if you want the best of the best, like I said, go with this CPU. So I opted for the THOR ASUS power supply. And this is 850 watt power supply, and the reason I got it is because I've got nice readouts on the side, especially when I'm overclocking. I can see the match wattage is going through, and also RGBs as well. But it is a bit pricey at £209, but as I said, go with EVGA, Seasonic, or Be Quiet for smaller power supplies, more like 650, 700 watts, and you should be able to get a good deal, especially with aesthetically pleasing cables. So I went with the Toshiba RC100 NVMe drive, and basically this is going for $72.07 at the moment on Amazon, and that's a very good deal because it's got really fast read and write speeds, probably about 3 times the speed of SSDs in their read and write speeds, which is definitely worth a buy. So this one here is 120 gig, but I've got the 240 gig, and it was about an extra 10 or £15 more. So definitely opt for an NVMe this time round, and we'll check out a mechanical drive so I can show you how much you can get a mechanical drive for. How about this? A blue Western Digital hard drive, and basically this is a terabyte. Yes, a terabyte at £38.99. So you can store all your data, photos, all your information, just all on there, your games and that, and then you can just drag that over and put it on the NVMe, and then basically start gaming at high frequency speeds. Now this is a better case than what I actually thought. I thought this was $99.99. It's actually $69.98, reduced from $69.99. Go and purchase this case right now. It's black, it's very aesthetically pleasing, it's a nice square shape, it's got a lovely design obviously, and you can put all your water cooling in there and get all your components in there. Fits mini ITX, micro ATX and normal ATX, no problem whatsoever. So we're going to be using this case. Plus it's got nice cable solution on there, and also it's got nice glass as well for tempered glass to make sure you can show off your nice build after you built it. So we went with the Gamer Storm RGB Castle. This is 240 version, so there is a 360 version and a 280 version if I believe rightly, but this is RGB, and I don't need to connect it to the motherboard to sync the RGB up. I can have the RGB alone by itself, or I can literally connect it all up and sync it up with Mystic Light, which I'm using with this MSI motherboard. But if you've got a different motherboard like Gigabyte, ASRock or ASUS, it will work with that as well. So that's what we opted for because it's really quite quiet and it's quite cooling. And it's also only $104.99 for this liquid cooling solution, which is really decent, and what I really need is for the 9900K to be nice and cool. So this is why we opted for this. If we went for anything smaller, it would kind of be too hot for the CPU to run, so that's why we went with that option. If you can afford it, go with the Samsung the 970 Pro, because at the moment it's at a price at $295.98, reduced from $526.26 on Amazon right now. So I'll leave links in all the description down for all these products down below if you want to obviously purchase this. But also, the reason I say to get a terabyte version of NVMe, it all depends on your own budget of how much you want to spend. There obviously is cheaper versions where you can get 128 gigabytes or 256, 512, and 1 terabyte, which I've got here. So you got that option right there. But I'll leave all the links in the description down below if you want to keep the price right down, but you want the optimal speed. But this is going to be faster than any NVMe that's smaller, and it's probably the fastest NVMe in the world anyway of this video today. 2019, sorry. Oh my God. 2019 on January the 18th, I think. That's the date. Now, I don't really want to recommend this RAM unless you're a baller, because it's about £300 per 16 stick, and we've got like 32 gigabytes of it, so we can populate the actual slots to make it look really nice. It's RGB. What I would do is find the cheapest RAM, make sure the timings are okay and the latencies are okay, and make sure that you can overclock it, or make sure that it's like a B die or something like that. If you can do that, then you can find yourself a great deal, because a B die made by Samsung or made by another company, I can't remember the name of the company, but that company is the only ones that make really good RAM, and you don't have any problems with it. And you can obviously plug it all in and then set the timings up, and it will work, and obviously the voltage on the RAM, and also you can do some other bits and bobs. I'm not going to make this all very complicated. I probably will, if you ask me in the comments down below what I should do, how to overclock RAM or something like that, what I should be looking out for, then we'll go with that. But at the moment, it's just basically having RGB that populates all 4 slots, and we went with the G-Skills Trident, because obviously it's the best RAM out there. And we do have an RTX 2080 Ti by ASUS overclocked edition down there, but we're not going to be using that, because we're going to be using the GeForce RTX 2060, because this is going to be the beast. It's basically taking over a 1070 Ti, and it's pretty much a beast mode of a graphics card. But if you've got the money and you've got the budget and you want to spend £1,500 just on the graphics card, go with that one. There is slightly cheaper ones. I think they're about £1,100, £1,200. But this was only £329, and I recommend this 100%, because number one, it's aesthetically pleasing. You might not be able to get this version unless you go notify me on Nvidia. They might be able to send out some more. I don't really know. But this is going at £329.99, and it's a beast mode of a graphics card. So much good quality. But anyway, we're going to get on and start building up this machine and everything like that. Obviously, I didn't really explain too much about why I chose that power supply. The power supply, well, I did about the aesthetics and stuff. All the cables that I've chosen to go with this power supply is all nicely braided, and there's no like spaghetti junction cables and stuff like that, which you don't really want. And yeah, that's what we're going to go with. Anyway, this motherboard is aesthetically pleasing. Let's get on and build it. So the first thing we're going to do is clear down this desk, and then we're going to put on the desk what we actually need. So I'm going to put everything so you can see everything in more detail. Right, ladies and gentlemen, so the first things first is get the motherboard out of the box. If you've got a mechanical hard drive or an SSD, you're going to definitely need to get these cables out, which is, where are they? Which are these SATA cables. You'll need them to connect them up, but I'm using NVMe, so I won't need to use that. But later on I'll come back to the box, because I need to put my AC in, and my Wi-Fi and my Bluetooth in, and my RGB cables to sync the process of this computer. But at the moment, I'm just going to use this box just as a little standoff, so I can easily get access to the motherboard. And what you want to do is leave the bracket on there, and you want to lift up the retention arm and then hold it back like that. The pins are underneath. They're a little bit different from AMD. AMD pins are on the CPU, which are on the Intel, they're not. So you should have this little marker, which is there, and it shows you where you actually place the CPU itself. And on my board, it should be, looks like it's, and there's also 2 notches as well. So my CPU fits in there. Don't need to force it in, it will just drop in. And then you just close up the retention arm, and then the plastic pops off. Also, next we're going to put the memory in, and then we're going to do the M.2, or we can do the M.2 and then the memory. But we're going to do the memory first. So I want to open up my slots, this one and this one. Actually, I want to open them all up because I'm using 4 slots. But if you were only using on your motherboard, you only had 2 RAM slots, it'll be this one and this one. But I'm opening up all of mine to populate it. So next, you're going to need a smaller screwdriver because you're going to need to be able to get into the M.2. So this is technically where I should have put my actual M.2, because this is the thermal compound that goes underneath, well, the thermal pad that goes on there and keeps it nice and cool. So I could place it underneath. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. Now the good thing about this one is that it's got the thermal pad underneath, but unlike this one, it doesn't have the thermal pad, but it's easy access. But it won't be easy access because your graphics card will be there. So it's easy access, but it's not easy access because it's got this on there. So you can't really win. And then you're done, M.2 secured. So next we need the retention bracket, which goes onto the back of this, which is secure the AIO, which is all-in-one liquid cooling solution. As I'm using Intel, I need to find the Intel bits at the back there, which should be that one, that one, that one, and that one, and it should be the first top ones, and then I can measure it up with this. And it also have these little clasps as well, and these long screws with long threads in there as well. So now this should fit in really easily, like so. And then this kind of marks up where the holes are for the screws on the back of the motherboard. You just hold the bracket down like so, and then you make sure that it's populated like so. And then we're ready to assemble the actual AIO or liquid cooler. But before we do that, we need to put a piece size of thermal compound. You can do it now, we can do it afterwards, but I would normally do it now so you know that it's already on there and you won't forget it and put the CPA block on there, and then you have a problem. When you want to know where to put the orientations of the fans on, because you want the cables to be hidden in the background of the case, obviously this goes where the front intake of the fans will be blowing in, like so. So what you want to do is hold the radiator like this, and then grab a fan with the cables hanging out like so. And you know that the fan has to be exhausting air out, which is, this is why it's this orientation round, to breathe, to exhaust air out. And this is cooled air. So basically anything that's hot is going to be traveling through the radiator straight out the case. Right, so on this NZXT case, it's a little bit more difficult, but what you would need to do is you need to put the fans inwards like so, and then you put the radiator on the outside. So now I need to just get the fans and put them in the right place. So these are 120s, so they need to go here, and the radiator will be going up from the top like so. So once you've done that, you need to put the bracket on and make sure this is orientated the right way up. So that should be going that way around inside the case. So now I need to put these on. Right, so what we need to do is get the motherboard in here. We've got to make sure the standoffs are there. On the back of this motherboard, it already has the IO bracket on the back, which is that. But if you don't have an IO shield, you need to get one out of the box and then place it in the right way. I can obviously take this retention bracket off now because I know it fits. I've got a standoff screw there, which means I can center part it straight away. And then I just got to make sure that everything fits in there perfectly. So now I'll just place my retention bracket nice and close to the back, which is with no problems whatsoever. Normally, it's really hard to get an EPS connector in there, so I'll probably go and take this out, then put the power supply in first, and then I'll be easy to be able to get access on there. And also take these plastic bits off before I actually put the motherboard inside the case. So now what I'm going to do is put the power supply in, grab the power supply, make sure the power supply is facing down and not facing up. So that means this orientation is meant to be facing down. But on this power supply, it can have it facing up because that's the way they've made it. But all other power supplies are not made like that. Now what we want to do is get that motherboard back in there so we can get the EPS connector plugged in. So I want to put the motherboard down before we even secure the screws down on it. So I'll get the motherboard, place it in gently, and then we're going to get the cables for the EPS connector, feed it to through the back. I highly recommend you do this first. So plug the EPS connectors in. Make sure they're in the right place as well. And that's perfect. So that's all in. Now, if it couldn't go in there, you'd have to take the fan out, and it depends how big your hands are and everything like that. It could be quite a bit of a mission. But now I did have the motherboard free, that means I could have literally just took the motherboard out and then plugged it in. It makes my life a lot easier. Now all I need to do is, there you go. See that little spot there? Or not all cases that they have this, but that means that it's already orientated in the right way to obviously screw down the motherboard to the actual standoffs in there. So that's what I'm going to do now. So basically work inwards, work outwards all the way into inwards. Now once you've done that, you lift up the case with all the cables at the back. And you just make sure that you get the AIO in there now. So I want to get all these cables and I want to feed them to the side, the back there. I need to position this in a little bit better. Right, so that's the radiator in and the fan. So I just screw this down, make sure it doesn't come out. Now what I want to do is make sure this is in the right orientation, which will be this way. So that's what I'm going to do, is put the retention bracket, which is this, onto the back of the motherboard. Make sure that's on there perfectly, which it is. Now I'm going to use these screws there to hold everything down in place. So now we've done that, we need to literally drag the cables into the front so we can get power from the front of here to turn it on and off. And also we need to connect up the USBs and any RGB cables and any fan cables, which we're going to do now. So 24 pin goes in here. And then we've got the RGB connectors and the CPU header there, which comes into this little box right here. So this is where I'll plug this PWM fan in and it will go into this one here. So plug it in from the back, put it into the second port at the top, make sure it's in properly. So you've got one on this side and one on this side, you want this side. Right, now is to plug all these cables in. So this is my RGB one. It's got 3 holes, which means it's a 5-volt version. If it's got 4 pins or 4 holes, that's a 12-volt version. So I need to plug this in because this motherboard supports it, no problem. Now I want to connect all the front I/O to the actual motherboard. Some of you will have different front headers, which makes it a little bit more difficult, where you have to, they're all split up and then you have to connect them all together. But on NZXT, you're kind of lucky with that. Now I've got to turn the case back round again. Oh, we're nearly done. So now we want to connect the rest of the RGBs up and the fans. So each fan from DEEPCOOL has an RGB connector and a fan connector. So I want to connect it right here. Right, on the back of the computer, I've only got space. I should spin it around, let you know. On the back, I've only got enough space for one more fan, and I've got 2 fans with the NZXT case, which is there and here. So what I'm going to do is use a fan splitter, and I'll show you, I'll leave a link in the description where you can obviously go and purchase one. Unless you've got one already, you can use that instead. Right, so now the last thing is to make the cables look very nice on this case. I do have a SATA connector in case I want to plug in a SSD or a mechanical hard drive in there, so there's no problem. But what I need to do is just wrap this up so it makes it look very nice and simple. And then after that, we're going to run Windows. I'm going to share to install Windows and stuff and download your games and everything like that and get it ready so you can be playing at 144 Hertz or 240 Hertz. So far, so good. Got this cable as well. This is your 8-pin to go into your graphics card if you've got an RTX 2060, and you want to feed that around the back there so it looks really nice. Normally, I've got these Velcro wraps and everything like that. If you want to look at a cable management video in one of my computer builds, check that out to show you how to obviously manage all your cables. But at the moment, if you just want to like get it in game, this is NZXT does a really good job of cable management with all these cable routing expressions right here and up here and stuff, and also down here. So all I'm going to do is do what an amateur would do, or what you would do if you're first time building a computer and you want to just get it going. Make sure the cables are nicely routed through here, because then it gives you more space to obviously get the case on. And I'll put my SATA power cable in there, and then my EPS connector can go here, so I'll just route it round and it's out of the way. I highly recommend this case, definitely. you can just kind of get a cable tie. You can tie it down so it doesn't go anywhere. And then that's kind of where the cable management takes its toll. Right, time to put Windows on. Right, last things, leaving the best till last is putting the GeForce RTX 2060 inside here. And this is where all your visuals are going to be happening. And all the lovely graphic intensive stuff will be happening too. Let me just take that off. Oh, that looks lovely. I like that, it looks very nice. So before we can even put the graphics card in, you just got to find out where you're situating the graphics card, which you want to put it at the top, 16 times bus speed, and that's where you want to put it. But one thing I just realised is I put the radiator the wrong way around, so I need to turn the radiator around the right way, then I can put the graphics card in.